In Grandma's accent, a young girl named Sophie struggles with a quiet shame she doesn't yet have the words to explain. Her grandmother, Linh Tran, immigrated years earlier and speaks English with a noticeable accent, one that draws mocking laughter from Sophie's classmates and unwanted attention in public spaces. Caught between love for her grandmother and a desire to fit in, Sophie begins to pull away, hoping that silence will protect her from embarrassment. As the story unfolds, Sophie learns that her grandmother's accent is not a weakness, but a living record of courage, survival, and sacrifice. Through old photographs and honest conversation, Linh shares her journey across oceans and cultures, reframing the accent Sophie once wished away as proof of resilience rather than failure. The turning point comes during a school event where Linh bravely shares her story in her own imperfect English. In that moment, Sophie finds her voice too, defending her grandmother and claiming pride in her family's history. Tender, heartfelt, and accessible to readers of all ages, Grandma's accent explores how language, identity, and love intersect, reminding us that every accent carries a story worth honoring. Sophie Tran always knew when her grandmother was coming to pick her up from school. It wasn't because Linh Tran was late, she was never late. It was because of the way Sophie's stomach tightened as the bell rang. Outside the school gates, parents gathered in small clusters, calling names, checking phones, laughing easily. Sophie spotted her grandmother immediately, short, straight-backed, wearing a floral cardigan that smelled faintly of jasmine tea. Linh waved with both hands. "Sophie, con guy, over here." A few kids turned their heads. Sophie pretended not to hear at first. She walked slower. Her backpack felt heavier than usual. "Your grandma's funny," a boy behind her whispered. "She talks weird." Sophie felt her face burn. On the walk home, Linh chatted cheerfully, her English careful but uneven. "Teachers say you do very good on math test," she said proudly. Sophie nodded. You want pho tonight? I make fresh broth." "Maybe," Sophie muttered. They passed a group of kids from school. One of them mimicked Lin's accent, stretching the words into something ugly. Linh didn't seem to notice. Sophie did. That night, Sophie avoided the kitchen. She shut her bedroom door and scrolled on her phone, trying to drown out the sound of her grandmother's humming. The next afternoon, the school announced Family History Day. Students were asked to bring someone to share a story about where their family came from. Sophie froze. At dinner, Linh clapped her hands. "I go with you. I tell story Vietnam." "No," Sophie said too quickly. "I mean, maybe someone else." Lin's smile faded, just a little. Later that night, Sophie found Linh sitting at the kitchen table, unfolding old photographs. Black and white images. A younger Linh. A boat. A crowd. "You ashamed of me?" Linh asked quietly. The words landed harder than Sophie expected. "I'm not ashamed," Sophie said, though her voice wavered. Kids laugh." Linh nodded slowly. "They laugh when I first come here too," she said. "I speak wrong. People talk loud to me, like I deaf." Sophie swallowed. "But I learn," Linh continued. "Not just words. I learn survive. I learn raise family in new place." She picked up a photograph of herself holding a baby, Sophie's mother. "I cross oceans so you can speak perfect," she said gently. "But accent is not failure. It is proof I was brave." Sophie's eyes filled with tears. On Family History Day, Sophie stood at the front of the classroom with Linh beside her. Lin's hands trembled slightly as she began. "My name Linh Tran," she said. "I come here many years ago." English was very hard. The room was quiet. She spoke about the journey, about learning new words, about missing home and building a new one anyway. No one laughed. Sophie watched her grandmother differently now, not as someone to hide, but as someone who had survived something enormous. When Linh finished, Sophie stepped forward. "My grandma has an accent," she said. "Because she learned another language as an adult. I only know one. That means she's smarter than me." A few kids laughed, but kindly this time. Sophie smiled. After school, Linh hugged her tightly. "You brave today," she said. Sophie shook her head. "You were brave first." They walked home together, Lynn humming, Sophie walking proudly beside her. For the first time, the sound didn't embarrass her. It sounded like home. The next week, Sophie noticed something new. Kids didn't whisper when Lynn came to pick her up. A girl from Sophie's class smiled and said, "Hi," a little shy. Another boy asked, "Is that your grandma?" without laughing afterward. It felt strange, like the world had shifted slightly to the left. As they walked home, Sophie kicked a pebble along the sidewalk. "Grandma?" she asked. "Yes, Con? Why didn't you ever stop talking? Like, change your accent?" Lynn didn't answer right away. They stopped at the crosswalk, waiting for the light. "I tried," Lynn said finally. "Many years. I listen radio. I practice words in mirror. Tongue don't always listen." The light changed. They crossed. "But also," Lynn added, "if I erase accent, I erase part of me. My mother, my village, the way my name sound when people love me." Sophie thought about that. She had never wondered what parts of her grandmother lived inside those sounds, only how loud they were. "I like how you say my name," Sophie said. Lynn smiled, wide and soft. "Good. I say it special." A month later, Sophie raised her hand in class. Her teacher looked surprised. Sophie usually waited. "I want to read," Sophie said. She stood at the front of the room with a short paper in her hands. It was about her family. About a woman who crossed an ocean with nothing but courage and a language she was still learning. When Sophie finished, she didn't rush back to her seat. "And," she added, her voice steady, "having an accent just means you learned something hard. It means you didn't give up." The room was quiet again. After school, Lynn listened as Sophie told her everything, words tumbling out fast. "You use your voice," Lynn said proudly. Sophie slipped her hand into her grandmother's. "I learned from you." They walked home together, the late afternoon sun warming the sidewalk. Lynn hummed, off-key and familiar. Sophie hummed too. Soft at first, then louder. Their voices didn't match. That was okay. Together, they filled the street with something unpolished, unhidden, and brave. An accent is not something to be ashamed of. It is evidence of courage, resilience, and the willingness to learn something difficult. When we stop hiding the parts of our loved ones that make them different, we begin to understand their strength, honor their sacrifices, and learn to be proud of where we come from. Every story lives longer when it's shared. If this one spoke to you, share it, and subscribe for more stories that spark the imagination.